Some self stretches for the hip flexors. A couple of precautions that I want to make here. One of which, most importantly, is some help to avoid the eccentric loading of the joint. Especially right now, all of my weight is on my thigh. So in order to help get the pressure off it so my tissue can more easily stretch, I'm going to lift up slightly. If you can't lift up at all, of course you can still do the stretch, but try your best to get a little bit of your weight off of your knee. Now, another thing to understand is the femur can only extend backwards about 15, maybe 20 degrees before the pelvis and the spine have to join in the movement. What's most common with this stretch, we've all seen people do this stretch, is this. And maybe even some people come this way, but most people push themselves up here. My femur has actually, in relation to my pelvis, not extended very much, and I've put a tremendous amount of pressure through a very strong wedge here, going directly into my groin. The groin is the tissue I'm trying to help. I want to avoid putting a heavy amount of pressure into when I'm stretching it. With that in mind, I'm going to use a couple other pointers to help me achieve a good stretch in my hip flexors, including adductors and abductors. They're also flexors of the hip. So one of the pointers I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here with my hip in a little bit of flexion. Lift myself up a touch, and then I'm going to use my left butt muscles to push me forward. I'm going to tighten my abdominal muscles to hopefully not tilt my pelvis. So my left glutes are contracting, my belly's contracting to keep me stable. My right hamstrings are also gently pulling me forward. Now, to start focusing on the adductors as they relate to hip flexion, I just need to adduct my hip. Right myself up again, focus on getting my pelvis in a neutral position, contract my left glutes as I come forward. As my flexibility increases, I'll begin working on adding internal rotation to the stretch to get a much fuller stretch through the attachments at the lesser trochanter. The next step I'm going to take to focus on my abductors, my lateral hip flexors, is I'm going to bring it in like so. Balance my pelvis out again as best as I can, lift, and use my glute to push forward. Great stretch for TFL, sartorius, top of rectus femoris. Remember, your femur doesn't go back very far, not if you keep everything in a good, tight position.